Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. We're here for the news this morning. I say we. Pretty obvious it's just me in it, but I'm here for the news this morning and that's all that matters. We're looking at Jadon Sancho as our first story today. It's the one that keeps rolling on. It looks as though, each time we talk about Sancho I say, oh, there's smoke, there's smoke, there's smoke, there's smoke. Well, now the Independent in Ireland coming out and... First of all, right, we're going to go through some of these quotes in a minute. First of all, they're talking about a potential 400 grand a week contract in a couple of years' time. So we'll get to that. We'll get to whether that's ridiculous or not. They're also talking about Sancho unofficially confirming that the deal is done. We'll get to that. This is also, let's just frame this properly. This is, all of these news stories are within a story that the headline is, failed to capture €130 million Jadon Sancho would be calamitous for Man United. So bear in mind that that is the angle from which all of this article has been written, that if we don't sign him, we're shit, basically. So that's nice, really putting the pressure on there. But I suppose you've come to expect that at this point, being a Manchester United fan. Right, first of all, let's get into this unofficially confirmed segment, because I think that's the most important part of this article. I mean, it is the most important part. We'll get to the money later on. So this is from Ken Lawrence, again writing for The Independent, saying that Jadon Sancho's figures are frightening, which is why Manchester United will not be scared off by the €130 million that it will take to get him. I think that the transfer fee, €130 million, what's that, about 120 million quid? Kind of the money we've been talking about, maybe slightly north of the usual figures, but roughly what we've come to expect from this transfer, isn't it? It's kind of in line with, Coutinho and Dembele and Felix and that kind of money. So it's going to be somewhere between 100 and 150 million euros, dollars, pounds, whatever you want it to be. I think the fee is kind of understood at this point. I mean, obviously they'll be fighting over 10 million, 20 million here or there, but we're expecting somewhere north of 100 million quid. So 130, whilst they're probably pushing the upper limit of what it will be there, it's going to be somewhere around that. No real surprises there if this deal is to be done. Let's get on to the next part. The next part says United have already lost one dazzling youngster in Erling Haaland. First of all, United have already lost Erling Haaland. Again, just to give some context, some sort of clarity on the angle from which this article has been written. United lost dazzling youngster Erling Haaland. He never played for United. He never said he was coming to United. He never signed for United. We didn't lose him. We just didn't get him. That's like saying, oh, your next door neighbour's got a new car. Neighbour loses car. Like, no, I didn't lose that car. I was looking at it in the showroom and he bought it. Fine, didn't lose anything. So it's all a bit, United already lost that. Look what else they've lost. So it's a bit, the claws are out a little bit, but again, you come to expect it and it doesn't really matter, does it? But here's the exciting part. Again, I'll read the next line. United already lost dazzling youngster Erling Haaland, who chose Sancho's current club, Borussia Dortmund, over them in January. To fail to capture the former Watford and Man City player would be nothing short of a calamity. Cheers, Independent. Right, but again, here's the next line, the important line. Every quiet word coming out of the Theatre of Dreams, Old Trafford, for those of you who don't know, is that Jadon Sancho has already unofficially confirmed he will be back to Manchester, but the red side. So that's kind of what they've done there, is one of two things. By saying every quiet word coming out of Old Trafford either means they're making it up, and you can just say that because what's a quiet word? Well, who knows? Someone said, I heard it. Well, did you hear it? Yeah. So it either means that, or it means this is what's being said to people, but no one's allowed to put a source to it. No one's allowed to put a name to that. Now, the thing with this is, again, it's all very much how much you're willing to say, how much you're willing to push things. But we've kind of heard similar rumours, but again, not from any... It's all just rumours. It's all been coming, oh, did you hear about that? Did you hear, he's apparently saying this. It's all, he's apparently doing that. So when they're talking about quiet words coming out of Old Trafford, we kind of have heard similar quiet words, but again, who knows exactly what quiet words mean? But again, this is the Independent, so they're in theory, hopefully, have some kind of source, some kind of back into this article. But I mean, that would be good, wouldn't it? If he's going around telling people that he's joining United, or if people at Old Trafford are going around and telling people that Sancho will be joining, very much a positive. So on to the next bit then. First of all, actually, do you think is anyone in here who thinks that 100 million is too much for him? 130 million euros or whatever it'd be slightly less than that probably. Does anyone think that is too much? I'm going to try and gauge your levels in the comments at different price points for different sets of contracts and rumour transfer fees and all that kind of thing. Let me know in the comments if you think 120 million quid is about right for Sancho. Obviously, in my head, you should be able to buy France for 120 million quid, let alone a 20-year-old from, where's he from, London? But do you think, considering the current market for transfers and for footballers, do you think United paying around 120 million is about a fair price? Let me know in the comments. Someone says 130 is steep, but 400k a week is a joke. Well, thank you, P Savage, because we're going to get onto that now. Later on in the article, again, and the reason I was talking before about the way this article has been framed, this sort of fear-mongering, this stoking of the fire, the stoking of the discontent. United have already lost one dazzling youngster in Erling Haaland. A failure to capture the former Watford and City player Sancho would be nothing short of a calamity. The reason I'm putting all of these things in is because the way that this article has been written is are building blocks on which to place the 400 grand a week flag, where it says here, apart from anything else, he will be looking at a pay deal that will see him earn 400k a week should he keep improving over the next 2 seasons. What the F does that mean? So he's not going to be on 400k a week now. He'll be looking at a pay deal that will see him earn 400k a week should he keep improving over the next 2 seasons. So what's that? Like bonuses? Maybe are they factoring in a potential contract like renegotiation in 2 years' time onto the money? Like, they're obviously trying to make it look like United are spending 400 grand a week on a 20-year-old. Look how stupid they are. They did it with Sancho, all this kind of thing. So I don't quite understand what that will see him earn 400k a week should he keep improving over the next 2 seasons means. Maybe they're talking if they're factoring in, sponsorships, and they're factoring in kit deals, and they're factoring in that kind of thing, and they're factoring in, bonuses, goals scored, potential bonuses for Ballon d'Or nominations, that kind of thing, should he keep improving over the next 2 seasons. A very vague comment, a very vague sentence that allows them to put in a figure like 400 grand a week without really having to explain where it came from. First of all, let me know in the comments whether you think 400k a week is a ludicrous fee. Obviously it is. I'm not exactly sure what the basis for that number is that we're seeing here from the Independent. But again, I would like what I would assume is they're factoring in every single potential earning that this guy's making in a week or in a year and dividing it by 52, and look, 400 grand a week. Look, I'm guessing that's goals scored bonuses, games played bonuses, Ballon d'Or nomination bonuses, potential things that haven't even been signed or discussed, all thrown in on top of that to really give us this ridiculous favour on there. 400k is too much. 400k monopoly money, yeah. Now I'd say 100 to 115 million max. 400k a week is an absolute joke. 400k a week is too much. I could get Joe for 30 pieces of silver. How dare you, Mark Edmond? Judas. He ain't asking or going to get 400k. United already been burned with that shit. Won't happen again. The blur there, presumably referencing Alexis Sanchez. Well, someone says Alisson 90k. We paid De Gea 350k. That brings me on to a good point, actually. GGR there. One of the reasons that is the case is Alisson came from Roma, and it's his first contract at no offence to Roma, but a big club in Europe. Roma's a decent side, but they don't really, they're not particularly. They never win the league really. They're a big name, but they don't really win the league much in Italy. They don't really win any sort of European titles particularly. They've got a few star players, but generally, they're kind of a top 6 Italian league side. So he's on a he's come through as a relative unknown. Alisson, this was we're talking about here, come through as a relative unknown through at Roma, made his first big money move to Liverpool. They've probably doubled his wages up to 90k. So that first contract is always going to be less. Look at what De Gea would have been on when he first came to United. I bet it was less than 90k. The thing is, we're sort of 3 contracts down the line with David De Gea, with the final contract being a please stay with us contract, which is why he's on 350 or what, 300, 350, whatever De Gea's on. He signed that contract as the best goalkeeper in the world. Alisson signed that contract as, this is your first move away from the club that you essentially came through. I know he didn't come through. I don't think he came through the youth team at Roma, but he established himself as a name in Europe at Roma. So he's on a substantially lower contract. Come back in 5 or 6 years, or even 10 years, whatever, how long De Gea's been at United. If Alisson is still at Liverpool, then I'm sure he'll be on the likes of 350, 400k. It seems a lot now, but he signed that deal when it looked like he wanted to leave, which put us in a bit of a bad position. And he was the best goalkeeper in the world when he signed that. So I think that's why you see the likes of 90k for Alisson, and that brings me back to Sancho. The idea that he might be getting 400k when it's essentially his first. And again, no offence to Dortmund, they've not won the league in 9 years. They haven't won a European competition in I think 23 years. So it's not like they're a big name, they're a big team, they're a great selling club, but they're not a huge name like Manchester United. Even though United haven't won the league in 7 years, they won it 12 or 13 times before that in the Premier League era. So it's not like the same as playing for Borussia Dortmund. So the first contract he signs at Man United, if he's anywhere near 400 grand a week when he's 20, what's Jadon Sancho going to be on when he's 30, or when he's signing that last big deal when he's 27, 28? That's the worry for me. How this sort of exponential growth of contracts, is he going to be on £1 million a week in 5 years? That seems insane. Someone saying there is so much time for this deal to be done that his wages thrown out there by his agent. It won't be 400k, but his agent is using this as a starting point to meet United somewhere in the middle. That's a potentially a good angle there. Daniel Riley saying 400k sounds like a clickbait story. Well, I mean, it's like I said, we're reporting the Independent here, and they've kind of. I tried to, like I was saying before, I tried to structure this video in a way to show the intent and the story behind this article from the Independent. Failure to capture 130 million euro Sancho would be calamitous for Man United. It's already written as a all or nothing type piece, so everything's hammed up 130 million euros, which is the highest figure I've seen rumoured for Sancho, 400 grand a week, all this kind of stuff. So I think what the Independent are doing there is basically pushing everything to the final degree, pushing everything as far as it can possibly go in terms of how much this deal is worth, how much United are set to lose, how stupid United are set to look if they don't sign him. So yeah, again, let me read that quote, the 400k a week quote again, just because the way it's phrased, the way it's structured is unusual to say the least. Where are we now? I'm just find that. It says, apart from anything else, he will be looking at a pay deal that will see him earn £400,000 a week. And this is the interesting bit that you don't normally hear. Should he keep improving over the next 2 seasons? So, there's no real basis to that sentence. There's no evidence. There's no sort of background given. There's no what do you mean? Should he keep improving? So again, we're left to kind of rumour as to whether that means he would get another contract upgrade. That is all his sponsorships on top of his United money. That is if he wins the Ballon d'Or, if he scores 40 goals in a season. If he wins the title for Man United, then he may get bonuses that would tally up to a sort of retrospective 400 grand a week if all of those things were achieved. And again, that just seems very unlikely to me. But it's certainly an interesting story. And I think hopefully United won't get pushed over for 400 grand a week from a 20-year-old. But the other interesting and exciting part of this story before we move on is every quiet word coming out of the Theatre of Dreams is that Jadon Sancho has already unofficially confirmed he will be back to Manchester. And again, putting on there sort of rumours we've heard here and there. that certain people are saying there's a good chance that this will get done. And again, all of this can change in a moment. This can all get scrapped. This can, he could sign a contract at extension at Dortmund. He might move to Real Madrid. He might go to Barcelona. He might go to Chelsea. There was also the report yesterday that came out saying that Dortmund won't stand in his way if he does decide to leave. And I think that was an official from Dortmund who said that. So there's at least some understanding that he may go this summer. And we are obviously... Here's another thing to always bear in mind. As United fans, and myself included in this, obviously I'm a United fan, but I'm not saying it to you like you don't know what you're doing and I do. We tend to look through things from the United lens. So we're looking at United subreddit. We're looking at News Now Man United. We're getting United-based alerts popping up. I'm sure the Chelsea fan base think that they're close to signing him. I'm sure the Real Madrid fan base think that they're close to signing him. The rumours we hear and the news that we see is always filtered through that lens of what we follow. So there is a chance that there's about 4 clubs in the country or 4 clubs in the world that think we've got a decent chance here. But it does seem as though, from what we're hearing, from what we're seeing, that Manchester United is the most likely destination at the moment. So that is very exciting in terms of Jadon Sancho. Right, let's move on then. Let's have a look. Our second subject for the day. Saul Niguez. Again, it's another one that keeps sort of pressing forward, this rumour. You think it's gone away and it comes back. This is the Daily Star, so take it with a few bagfuls of salt. Man United growing increasingly confident of club record Saul Niguez transferred this summer. This is an exclusive apparently, so the reason you haven't heard it in any more reliable newspapers is because they ain't got the contacts. Manchester United are planning for life without Paul Pogba, and a deal for Spaniard Niguez is appearing closer than ever. Manchester United are growing increasingly confident of landing Saul Niguez for a club record, and listen up boys, £135 million deal. That's more than Sancho. That doesn't sound right, does it? United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has targeted the Spain and Atletico Madrid ace, he's an ace, as Paul Pogba's midfield replacement at Old Trafford. Pogba is expected to join Real Madrid in the transfer window. Is he? Provided the Spanish giants are willing to meet United's £100 million asking price. Right, well there you go then. It's quite the proviso, isn't it? And United Executive Vice Chairman Ed Woodward is willing to use that cash to help fund a move for Niguez that would make him the most expensive signing in their history. United sent scouts to watch him at Anfield earlier this month. I like that. So Mike Phelan sat in the stand and he's watching Saul Niguez, isn't he? Maybe he was watching just a Champions League second leg that happens to be about 30 miles from where he lives. Like, it's one of the biggest games in world football and it's right on our doorstep. Why would you not go and watch it and just see all the players play? But no, we definitely know who's there to watch Saul Niguez when Atletico beat Liverpool. That was a good day. United are willing to meet the buyout clause in Niguez's 9-year deal at Atletico, making him one of the highest paid stars in the team. Again, here's something to always look out for. This article here, the reason I put this second in there on the list today for news is because, as much as the first article, the Independence article, was relying on, small talk coming out of the club, at least that is referencing some suggestion that this has been told to them by anyone. But this article, literally is just saying that the exclusive is that we want to buy him. There's no real fee. There's no rumored quotes. There's no suggestion that the player wants to join. There's no we've heard this. There's no this person said this. It is just an opinion piece, an article referencing nothing. But that's not to say that this deal won't happen. But what it is saying is that there's nothing. There's nothing that's particularly strong in this article to me that makes me think this is any more likely than it was before they wrote it, if you know what I mean. I'm not exactly sure where they've got this exclusive from other than their own heads. But there has been rumours of Saul Niguez for a long time at United. Not that means that there's anything there, but what it does mean is that we're probably going to be hearing more of it. So what we'll do, obviously, is keep everyone updated with the goings-on there for Saul Niguez, because I think he's the sort of player that United are interested in. I know for a fact that United would like to buy another midfielder, maybe 2 in the summer. So Saul Niguez may be one of those options. Losing Paul Pogba may be, a big sort of hinge in this whole deal. I know that Jack Grealish is another one of those options. So there's a chance that, maybe Sancho isn't the first option. Maybe he's too expensive, or we just, not that interested and we prefer someone else. Maybe he's second or third down that list. Declan Parker there saying 9-year deal is crazy. Of course, that's what Sancho is on at Atletico. I think it's a 9-year deal, but I think he's already 3 years or 2 years into it. So he's only got 7 years left, so that's easy to buy him out of. Someone says 135 for Niguez or 50 to 60 for Grealish. It's not even close. Yeah, exactly. But not that he's twice the player Grealish is, but if he is even 20% more suited to what United are trying to do, and we have the money, should the price come into it, if the perfect man is available and we can afford him, I think that price difference, in theory, isn't such a big deal. But I think United need enough players that an extra 60 million somewhere else would definitely be a help to us. Someone's saying we need a CDM at United. Yeah, I do tend to agree with that. Any comments on the Jack Grealish goings on with the car? No, not really. I don't. It all seems a bit. I don't. Is it real? Is it not real? Do we know? I think there's a lot of misinformation, and I don't really know enough. I don't think we know enough about the situation to really comment and pass much judgment on that. Obviously, as that story develops, we might get into that later on in the coming days, depending on outcomes of searches and findings and all that sort of stuff. But at the minute, it's just, I think there's too many rumours involved in that Jack Grealish story to get into much detail on that. Joe, since you look like Jesus, can your dad do his magic to get these players to United? First of all, I can do, not that I'm Jesus, normal Jesus can do magic, water to wine, walking on water, a lot of water-based magic, fish, bread, Sermon on the Mount, etc., right? Why does everyone always say, get your dad to do it? Jesus has got superpowers as well. Not that I'm Jesus and not that I pretend to be Jesus. But, come on, just ask Jesus to do it next time. Don't get God involved all the time. Always trying to go to the boss when the actual, regional manager is about, and he's pretty good. Either way, he's an idiot for going to his mates and breaking lockdown. Yeah, we can say that. If that was him, Anyway. I think something more like partying Grealish would suit us a lot more than Niguez. Yeah, potentially. But I don't think, you can't just choose who's available and who wants to sign and who United like. I think, even if we like players, you can't just have whoever you want. Could you imagine if we get Sancho, Grealish, Sal and Werner? I can imagine it. I think that's probably all we'll be doing. All of those people individually are relatively attainable, but I don't think getting all four of them, that's going to be, 300-400 million quid there. And I doubt United will spend that much. Right, that's going to be all from us today. We're going to be back later on for Howson's Homebrew, so make sure you check that out. That should be very good, very exciting, very fun as always. Again, quickly before we go, quick recap on today's main story. That is that Jadon Sancho has supposedly, or reportedly should I say, unofficially confirmed his move to Manchester United. This is coming from the Independent in Ireland, where he said every quiet word coming out of the Theatre of Dreams is that Sancho has already officially confirmed he will be moving back to Manchester, but the red side. So, very exciting, and if there is truth in that, if it is the case that Jadon Sancho has been going around telling people that he's going to be joining United, if it is the case that officials and sources at United have been going around telling people that Jadon Sancho is joining United, then whilst the deal is never done until it's done, it looks as though a big step forward has potentially been taken there. So that is very exciting news. Thank you very much for joining me. Like I said, 4 o'clock today we will have Howson's Homebrew, so be sure to tune in for that. And assuming this closing video works, which half the time it does, half the time it doesn't, I'll see you in a bit.